Do you know who created the first American flag? If you said Betsy Ross, according to legend, you'd be right. But do you know who created the flag we have now? Probably not. It was a guy named Robert Heft. Now, Robert Heft was a high school student in Lancaster, Ohio in 1958. And for a history project, for his history class, he turned in a 50-star flag. You see, at that time, of course, the American flag only had 48 stars. But Robert had heard that Alaska would soon join the Union and Hawaii would be shortly behind. So he knew that the United States would need a 50-starred flag. So on his own initiative, he put a 50-star flag together and turned that in as his history project. His teacher was not impressed. His teacher said, "What is this flag? It's got too many stars," and gave Robert a B-. A classmate of his picked up 5 leaves off the ground and taped them into a notebook, and that kid got an A. So Robert didn't like this grade, and he thought it wasn't right. Despite his teacher's criticism, he thought, you know what? This just isn't right. I believe in my idea, and I'm going to follow it through. So about 2 years and lots of letters and lots of phone calls later, his phone rang, and it was President Eisenhower inviting him to come to the Capitol on July 4th, 1960 to help raise the newly approved American flag with 50 stars over the US Capitol. You know, Robert's story really reminds me how so often people spend a lot of time worrying about their critics. And it always seemed to me, and I've learned this more and more as I've gotten further along in my career, that feedback can sometimes be overrated. You know, a lot of people, they put a lot of stock in feedback, and their first thing will be, well, we did this thing, now let's get feedback about it. And that's okay, and feedback can be valuable. But if and when you get feedback that isn't necessarily positive, and especially if it's unsolicited, about something that you feel really sure is right and you can explain why it's right, it may be that criticism isn't something you should listen to. Another question to ask yourself, the criticism that's being leveled at the thing you care about, is it coming from people that you made that thing for? Because it could be that the thing you created isn't for them, isn't for those critics. Things that we make, things that we create, projects that we pursue, ways we hope to impact the universe through the work we do. You know, this is really art. It's the art of your life. And art has critics, but the best art has lots of critics oftentimes, and the best artists, and I would humbly submit the best workers, carry on with their vital life's work regardless of the criticism, in spite of the criticism, and sometimes even because of the criticism, motivated by the criticism, just to show the critics that they were wrong. In Robert's case, once the US flag with 50 stars got adopted, he went back to his teacher and said, hey, this flag's now got 50 stars, and it's our nation's flag. It's a flag that you and I see all the time today if you live in the United States. But all around the world, it's the flag that everybody's familiar with when it comes to the United States. And his teacher at the time was like, you know what? I was wrong. You showed me up, and gave Robert an A. So when you have critics at work, first of all, don't let them get under your skin, right? Don't let them get under your skin, because that's just one person's opinion. They could be wrong. Their criticism could come from all sorts of places that are invalid. It could come from jealousy. It could come from fear. It could come from ignorance. It could come from just being mean. It doesn't matter. It's not your problem. When you get feedback about your work, listen to it. If there's something in that criticism you think is valid or that serves you or that could improve your work, go ahead and include it and say thank you. But if that criticism, you hear it and your initial reaction is, that's bullshit and they're wrong, go with that. That's the right instinct, and I would argue that's the voice you should follow. Because if you do, I very much believe it will help you win at work.